Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, there are so many of you here. I'm getting emotional. Can't do that. Okay. Well, I'm so glad that so many of you are here tonight because I really think this message will hit home with a lot of you. And I am so glad to see so many men here, honestly. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Incredible. Now, here's the thing, men. I'm going to say woman a lot, okay? But just sub that out in your mind, okay? Because this is really important for you as well, okay? I do not want you to sit there and think, this isn't for me. This message is only for the women, all right? Promise? Yes? Thank you. Okay, amazing. I love that. Thank you. Women, do we have anything similar? That's incredible. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, the talk is titled, Always the Bridesmaid, Never the Bride. For the men, always the groomsman, never the groom. So if you heard that title, chances are you might be here and you might be single. Or you might be in a relationship, but you're not at that next stage yet. And if that's you, you're in the right place, okay? And let me just say that being single in this day and age, especially as a Catholic, can be disheartening at times. I like to think of a story from St. Teresa of Avila. Do you guys know who that is? Yeah. So I love this story about her because she was on a journey one day and she's riding a donkey, okay? And it had rained the day before, and so everything was muddy around her. And for some reason, the donkey kind of stops suddenly, and she goes flying over the front of it. And she lands in a pile of mud. And the first thing that she does is she looks up at the sky and she's like, you know what, God, if this is how you treat your friends, no wonder you have so few, right? And sometimes I feel like in the single world, we feel that. We are striving to live in the way that He asks us to live. We are not saying no to the hookup. We are saying no to the hookup culture. We are saying yes to the things that lead us to Him, and that can be really hard, right? Sometimes it can feel like, God, if this is how you treat the people who are trying to live the way that you want us to live, no wonder so few do it, right? Can I get an amen? Amen. So the other thing that you might be here today, because you might be the person in a lot of people's lives that pour out to so many people. Right? There are people who need you. You're married friends and they've got kids, you're babysitting, right? And you have no one to pour into you in that same way that you so earnestly desire. And that might be why you're here today, right? And you don't resent it exactly because it's who you are. You know that is the season you're in. But if you're really honest with yourself, you're a little bit tired. You're a little bit over it because you want someone to pour into you, right? And if that is you and you have this ache that is sitting in your chest, and it's real, right? And you're not sure what to do with that ache anymore. You've been here maybe for so long that you're like, I'm kind of done figuring it out, right? And maybe, like me, you've been told, it's just a season. Guess what? God's going to drop someone in your lap when you least expect it. I think I will cry the next time someone says that to me. Or maybe you should focus on other things. Or maybe you should focus on your self-development, you know? Well, I remember swallowing my own feelings super often, right? Because someone would just dismiss the feeling of being single and say, it's so good once you get married. It's like, yeah, I know. And I would think, maybe I'm being dramatic, right? Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I need to adjust my expectations. And maybe you do that too, if we're being honest. So before we go anywhere else, I just want you to hear that you are not crazy, okay? You're not too emotional, even the men. And your desire for love, it's not a defect. It really isn't. So before we go anywhere else, this is not gonna be a moment where I pat you on the back and tell you it's gonna be okay, all right? Just be content until God drops someone out of the sky. This also isn't how to get into a relationship 101. So really sorry if that's why you came in here today. But here's what we are going to do. We are going to honor the ache. And more importantly, we are going to understand what it actually means from God's perspective. And we're going to talk about the choices that you can make right now in whatever season you're in to live like the woman or man that God created you to be. Does that sound good? We're not pretending that the pain doesn't exist, okay? We're done with that. We're leaving that in 2025. But we're living with intention, with clarity, and with hope again. So if you can, just for this next 52 minutes and 40 seconds, let yourself be poured into, okay? Sit there and receive. Let yourself be seen. Now, I don't want to be strangers, okay, and I didn't have an introduction prepared, so if we have not met yet, my name is Laura Jean, and I help individuals and couples prepare for their marriages so that they can live out their vocation to the best of their ability and lead healthy and holy marriages that get them to heaven, because that's the goal, right? I've spent my life studying marriage and the family, both from the experiential standpoint, like the very human aspect in psychology, and also the big picture of how God designed it. And that's given me a really unique and amazing perspective, and that's where I'm coming from, all right? Now, when I started studying this topic, did I think I would be here today? No, I did not. But let me explain. So, when college was coming to a close for me, I remember that all-consuming question of like, what am I gonna do after this? Do you guys feel that? How many of you, by a show of hands, have already graduated college? Okay, so you all know that feeling, yes? And raise your hand if you are still in college. Okay, fantastic. So even if you don't know that feeling intimately yet, you may one day. Okay? And so I know that we can all kind of relate. So here's the funny thing though. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I did know one thing. A lot of times that's all I need. I knew one thing. I knew that I really wanted to study the human person. And not in a vague or abstract kind of way, but through God's design. What did He make us for? Why are we here? And more importantly, what is the best way to live, okay? And that part was really clear to me. What wasn't clear is that I would be still single at 29 teaching people about marriage. That's kind of crazy. And that part really surprised me. But when I graduated, I just had this conviction, right? I just knew I needed to study this. And so I did something that makes very little sense on paper, okay? I packed up my life in one suitcase, I got on an airplane, and I moved to a different country, to a little town outside of Vienna, Austria, and I went to school in a literal medieval castle. Isn't that insane? And that was a bit dramatic, I would say. But not because I was lost and floundering, but because I was so convinced that this is what I had to do that I packed up my life to do it. And I wasn't the only one. This school had plenty of people studying. And I found myself in classes with priests, with seminarians, with retired married couples, with young married couples who were engaged preparing for their own weddings. as well as religious. And I remember thinking, as a 20-something-year-old girl who was still single, I'm saying, what is my role here? Not that I'm in the wrong place, but what am I going to do with this to minister to the world? You see, everyone else's path kind of made sense to me. Do you know what I mean? The priest, that makes sense. The married couples, that makes sense. And maybe you felt that in your life too, right? You see people who have maybe found their way a little bit faster. Maybe they're already married and starting their families, and you're like, where is my turn? And where do I fit into this? But here's what happened in this castle. I did not become a princess, I will tell you that. But my heart started to break open in the best possible way. Not because everything suddenly clicked for me or that I got my dream life, but because what I was learning was absolutely transforming me. The way that I saw myself, the way that I understood desire and love and sacrifice, the way that I showed up in relationships, every relationship, with my mom, with my friends, with anyone in the future, I knew that was all shifting. And I realized something in that moment, that this formation isn't just for married people. It is for anyone who wants to love well. And because I had seen firsthand the difference that this transformation took in my own life, I knew that for every individual or couple, this would be absolutely vital for the health and holiness of their vocation. And yes, while I do work with engaged couples as they have the wedding date on their calendar that they're working towards, I also still work with individuals because having a long runway to learn these things and start preparing where you're at is gonna give you so much better chances of success along the way. And the more that I learned, the more that I realized something that became the foundation of all that I do. And that is that formation gives you two essential data points you can't live without. And that is, first, a picture of where we're going. So this is the ideal that God created us for. And secondarily, a truthful picture of where you are starting from. Because by understanding what we're made for, right, we can turn in that direction. We have a vision in which we are moving towards. We have something to orient our efforts. It's kind of like an artist, okay, who is looking at a natural landscape in order to use their own gifts and talents to craft their piece. They need some kind of reference that's real and beautiful in its own right. And by understanding the different experiences and behaviors and how different experiences really impact our thought process and how this all works as it's a long sentence, a human experiencing life for the first time in a broken world without all the answers. Okay. It helps us to know the starting point of where we are at. If you've ever been to a national park or gone skiing on a mountain, you've probably seen a big sign when you get there, right? And it shows you all the places that you might want to get to, kind of tells you where to go. But what's the first thing that you look for? You look for the big red dot that says you're starting here. This is where you're at. And so without both of these, without this starting point to know where we're at, we're going to be stranded on the mountain or we're going to be stranded in the park, even if we have a beautiful reference of what it might look like when we get there. And formation is what gives you these two essential data points. And without both, the direction and the you are here, your path forward feels confusing, exhausting, and hopeless a lot of times. And I realized something that really has shaped a lot of this since, and that is that you don't have to be married to prepare for marriage, and that you don't have to be in a relationship to become the woman or man that God created you to be. And honestly, we shouldn't be waiting. We shouldn't be waiting until we have a ring on our finger, because the woman that God created in you doesn't suddenly turn on the day that your vocation begins. His plan for you didn't begin with a ring, and it won't end with one. His plan started the moment that he formed you in your mother's womb. That 3-year-old little girl who had all the energy in the world, that was his plan. That preteen who was trying to figure it all out, slamming doors, that was his plan too. And the college student who's just trying to figure out their place in this world, that's his plan too. And wherever you are, the ache, in the longing, in whatever season you're in, believe it or not, that's God's plan for you too. Not as a punishment, not as a delay for what he wants to give you, but honestly, it's for you. This is your life, guys. This is your story. So instead of wishing it away, let's wake up to it. Let's honor it. And let's start taking the direction of our lives seriously, right here, right now, before anything else falls into place. And if we're going to take this seriously, we have to start with something that we really try to avoid. We really try to push it down. We don't want to talk to anyone about it. And that is the ache, the longing that we all feel, the ache of being single, the ache of wanting something so good and not having it yet. It's not weakness, and it's definitely not something to brush off or hide. It matters. And to understand why it matters, we have to go back to the beginning. So many things we have to go back to the beginning, by the way. But we have to go back to the beginning. Did you know that we are all created with a spousal meaning? Did you guys know that? And it's not just every single one of us, male and female, we're created for communion. And that is not poetic language, by the way. It is literally built into our bodies, into our souls, into the very way that God designed us. We were created to be united with another until death do us part. One man with one woman united for life, to give and to receive love, to become a sincere gift of self to each other. And yes, in the ordinary design of humanity, this looks like marriage. We are all created for marriage, every single one of us. Not in the sense that everyone will get married. Okay, let's be very clear. But in the sense that marriage reveals what we're made for. This self-gift, this union, this fruitfulness, this communion, love being poured out. And the ache that you feel when you desire marriage, again, it's not immaturity, it's not desperation. It's your nature literally speaking to you. It's telling you what you're made for. Now, here's where we have to hold another truth at the same time, okay? We're made for marriage. It's great. It's lovely. But some people are called out of that ordinary pattern, right? To religious life, consecrated life, celibacy for the sake of the kingdom. And this doesn't erase the spousal meaning of their bodies at all. In fact, it honors it, because they're giving up the chance to be united with another person on this earth, to live a reality that we will all experience in heaven. They make visible what will one day be our reality. This is perfect union with God. It's not a second-tier plan. It is not missing out on something. It is a great grace and a great call for those who are called to it. A call that does not negate the way that God created them or abandon it, but fulfills it in a different way. And then there's another reality, and one that I haven't heard a single person talking about, because honestly, who wants to believe it, okay? And that is that some people, though made for marriage, will not experience it in this life. Not because they did anything wrong, Not because God forgot them, not because their story is any less, but because God's plan for them is uniquely, painfully, beautifully theirs. And that doesn't make the ache any less real, but it helps us to reframe it a little bit. It's your heart remembering something it was made for. And I know this is the moment where some of you are thinking, okay, Laura, but like, if I am made for this, then like, why is God making me wait so long? You know, like, when is this gonna happen? And that is honestly a fair question. It's a human question. It's a question I have asked many times myself. So let's understand that a little bit more, okay? Marriage is really beautiful. The more I study it, the more I'm like, what a gift God has given us in marriage. But it is not the final destination. It is a sign. It is a glimpse. It is a foretaste. You see, every good marriage points beyond itself, right? Because the love of husband and wife, the love that is self-giving and sacrificial and fruitful, it's meant to image the love that Christ has for the church. That's why we ache for it, because marriage is the closest earthly taste that we get to that love. But the ache doesn't stop when you get married. It just changes shape. Because nothing in this world, not even the best marriage, can ever fully fulfill the desire that you have for heaven. Your ache for marriage and your ache for God are connected. They're not identical, let's not get that wrong, but they're intertwined. Your ache for communion points to the one who created you for communion. Your ache for love points to the one who is love. And your ache for belonging points to the one who calls you his own. And if we don't understand this truly, we end up chasing marriage as the solution. Instead of inviting God into it, we end up idolizing the very thing that was meant to lead us to him. I love the example of St. Piero Giorgio Frassati. I know you guys have talked a lot about him this week, as you should. He was a great man and a great saint. But something that you might not know about him and his story is that he was actually in love. He was in love with a woman, coincidentally named Laura. And he kept this a secret from most people in his life, most especially his family. And he kept it a secret because he knew that his parents wouldn't approve of this. You see, they were from different social classes, and that was really important to his family. And so in his discernment, in his prayer, he recognized that God wasn't calling him to go against his parents at that time. And so even though he felt real love for this woman, he never dated her. He never led her on. He ended up dying young and alone rather than pursuing a relationship with her for his own gratification. Now, no one knows what would have happened had he lived a longer life, right? But the fact of the matter remains that we're all created for marriage, yes. And it is a gift to those of us here on earth that experience it. But it is not a right of ours. It is not owed to us to experience here on earth. And it's not a replacement for doing the harder thing, walking the narrow path, and getting to heaven. Holiness is how we get there, and heaven is the goal. Now, for those who do get married, right, that is the spouse's express mission and vehicle with which to get to heaven. But that doesn't mean you don't have a mission to get to heaven yourselves. In fact, it means that that responsibility lies solely on your shoulders, okay? And Pierre demonstrates something that is so countercultural and so necessary for us to hear. He demonstrates with his life that holiness requires responsibility. Holiness requires surrender. And holiness requires choosing God over ourselves. And he seemed to answer with his life this question that we all ask at some point, and that is, what is our purpose? It's a question that I've asked, and maybe you have too, especially in the times when it's really confusing and lonely, or your life is kind of looking directionless. You can ask this question. And thankfully, the church gives us a really stunningly simple and clear answer. St. Ignatius of Loyola wrote this, and he says, God freely created us so that we might know, love, and serve him in this life and be happy with him forever. God's purpose in creating us is to draw forth from us a response of love and service here on earth so that we may attain our goal of everlasting happiness with him in heaven. That is your purpose. That is everyone's purpose, to know him, to love him, to serve him, and to be united with him forever in heaven. Everything else, every gift, every desire that you have, every relationship is meant to help us reach that goal. And if he could have made us, he could have made us robots, programmed to know, love, and serve him, but he didn't. Because he wanted our active participation in choosing that, to choose to know, to love, and to serve him. And you want to know what's funny? Is that this clashes with the world. Culture tells us, you do you, and do what makes you happy, your desires, your truth, your timing, doesn't it? And it sounds kind of empowering, doesn't it? But let me tell you right now, those are straight up lies from the devil. And that sounds harsh, but it is true. Because happiness on this earth is not the purpose of your life. Let me say that again. Happiness on this earth is not the purpose of your life. Holiness is, and heaven is. And holiness, real holiness, often requires doing the harder thing, walking the narrower path, choosing surrender over self-gratification. Think of literally any saint. I can't think of one who didn't have a hardship in their lives, whether it be a big thing, a little thing, all the things. And it's not the hard things themselves that made them holy and eventually a saint, but rather it's what they did when they experienced them. The faith that they held on to and professed, and the love with which they showed up with day in and day out in the face of those hardships. It was never about how happy they were every day of their lives here on this earth. But it is about how now they get to experience the ultimate happiness of being with God in heaven. I'm so sorry. Holiness was forged in them because they kept choosing God in the middle of everything hard. And here's what we don't say enough. Your call to holiness doesn't begin the day your vocation begins. It's not once I'm in a relationship, or once I'm engaged, or once I'm married, or once I'm finally chosen. Your call to holiness is right now. Today, in this season, in this ache, before anything changes. Whether anything changes. Being single does not give you a pass to be passive in your own life, or self-focused, or careless with your life. Being single does not exempt you from heroic virtue. Pier Giorgio lived holiness in his longing, not apart from it. And here's where this kind of all comes together. Your ache that you're experiencing, it points to God, right? We already talked about that. Your design points to communion. Your purpose points to heaven. And your vocation points to mission. And your choices, they all point to the person you're becoming. Because marriage is a beautiful vocation, really, it is. But it is not the replacement for heaven. It's not the fix for your ache. And it is not owed to you. It's a mission. It's a responsibility. And for those who are called to it, it's their vehicle to heaven. So the real question becomes, what kind of person are you becoming right now? In the waiting, in the longing, in the hidden years, in the ache. Because your purpose has not been postponed. It hasn't been paused. It hasn't been delayed until a man or a woman shows up and notices you. Your purpose is alive right now. And the direction of your life is shaped not by what you hope will happen someday, right? But it is shaped by the choices that you make today. So if holiness is the goal, right, and your life is happening right now, not later, then we have to talk about something that people don't really talk about when they talk about singleness, okay? This is where we wake up and we listen, okay? And that is your agency, your responsibility, your daily decisions, your character. Because your vocation, whether marriage or religious life, doesn't magically transform you into the person that God created you to be. You have to be becoming her or him all along. You know, there's this story about Leonardo da Vinci, the painter, you know? He painted The Last Supper. This is his Last Supper. And there's this story about him that this painting took a really long time to be finished. And it's not because he was just slow at painting, but it was because he had a really clear picture of what he wanted to do with it. You see, he was really careful about who he chose to sit for each character. And so he knew that for the face of Christ, he wanted someone who was young, who could portray purity and the beauty of Christ, right? So he had someone sit for that, and then he finished painting most of the apostles. Well, the people who had commissioned the painting came to him about a decade into the project. Yes, it's a long time. And they came to him and it was like, yo, why isn't this finished yet? Okay? And he's like, I know, it's almost done, but I need someone who could portray a person who could betray a friend to sit for the face of Judas. And I haven't found anyone like that yet. And so a word spread about a notorious criminal who had just been captured. So people were like, hey, Da Vinci, go over there to the prison, check him out, see if that is who could sit for you. And so he goes over to the prison and he sees this young man, or not young, and he thinks he's perfect, okay? So he brings him, chained and with guards, to his studio, and he finishes painting The Last Supper. Well, he finishes, and he invites this prisoner to come around and to see it. And upon seeing the image, the prisoner just breaks down and sobs. And Da Vinci is like worried. He's like, what is the matter? And the prisoner looks at him and says, Master Da Vinci, you don't remember me, do you? And Da Vinci looks at him again and confidently says, I have never seen you before. And still crying, the man said, I am the young man who sat for you for the face of Christ years ago. This story illustrates in a really powerful way the implications of how our choices and actions either form or deform us. Because the once young man who was capable of portraying the beauty and purity of Christ became someone unrecognizable by the choices that he made. From being young and innocent to making the choices to become a criminal who pillaged, destroyed, and maybe even harmed other people. Who we become is not random. It is shaped by the thousands of yeses and nos that we make every single day. So I want to present to you an actual tool that will help you take away from this, because you know what? Knowledge is really helpful, and you've been listening to a lot of talks this week, and that's really great, and I hope you've been learning a lot. But pairing that knowledge with what to do so you can actually implement this in your life, that is powerful. So that's what we're going to talk about next. I want to present to you this main character identity, okay? And at its core, this main character identity is about taking radical responsibility for your life. It doesn't mean being self-centered. It doesn't mean being performative or over-dramatic. It means living with intention, with clarity, and with responsibility for your own story. It's the opposite of passivity. It is, you're no longer a side character in your own life, waiting for life or love to happen to you, right? You are someone who acts, who discerns, who decides. You're taking an active role in your life. It's not about being the most important person in the room. It's about taking seriously the fact that you were made on purpose, with a purpose, and that your choices shape the arc of your life. And let me tell you right now, there is no other choice that will shape the arc of your life more than choosing who you become and choosing the one who will be by your side in this life. No other choice comes close. And I want to give you a picture of what this main character identity actually looks like in real life. Would that be helpful? Especially in dating, okay? So we just celebrated Christmas, didn't we? And one of my favorite Christmas films is The Holiday. Has anyone ever seen it? Yes? Wow, you guys are so quiet. Okay, so in The Holiday, we have this woman, and her name is Iris. And when we meet Iris, she is kind of stuck, okay? She's not having a great time. She's in love with a man named Jasper. Jasper. Or honestly, she was in love with the idea of what she hoped he could be for her. But he just kept her around, you know? He gave her tiny crumbs of affection, a late night text here, just enough to keep her orbiting him, but never enough to actually choose her. Everyone watching could see it. Everyone. She even saw it. She wasn't happy, but she couldn't break out of it. Why? Because she deep down didn't think she deserved anything different. And that's where she meets Arthur. Arthur is an old Hollywood screenwriter, and he spent his life writing scripts for movies. And he saw something in Iris that she wasn't seeing in herself, right? And he started telling her to go watch these movies. And coincidentally, in these movies, there was always a strong leading lady. And finally, it kind of clicked with her, and she was like, I have been a side character in my own life. And you are supposed to be the leading lady in your own dang life. And so she starts practicing something new. She starts making decisions that honor her dignity. She starts acting like the woman that she actually wants to become. And slowly, you know, not in the dramatic movie montage way, but slowly she starts stepping into a different version of herself. And then one day, Jasper shows up again. Are you kidding? How rude. And he is ready to pull her back into that same exhausting cycle, ready to offer the same crumbs he'd been giving her all along. And for a moment, and you can actually see it in the movie, she's like, almost goes. But something had shifted in her. Those small decisions that she was making over time, she realized this is not what she wants. She knows that she wants a life that won't fit inside the box that he made for her. And so she gathered all of her courage. She looked him in the eyes and walked away. And not just from Jasper, by the way, but from the version of herself who thought that's all she was worth. And here's the thing, this main character identity, it's not just a movie plot, okay? It's a spiritual reality. It is a way of standing before the Lord. It is a way of honoring who he created you to be. I like to think of a pen, like a writing instrument, okay? And when Arthur and Iris were figuring out that you're supposed to be the leading lady in your own life, it was kind of like Arthur handed Iris a pen that she didn't know that she could hold on to. You see, up until then, Jasper had been the one writing her story, and he decided when she felt worthy. He decided when she felt chosen, and he decided when she got attention. He decided how small she was allowed to be. And the chapters that he wrote for her in her life were miserable. But once she started seeing herself clearly, when she stepped into the truth of who she was, she took the pen back and she started writing her story. And that is the moment that everything changes for a woman or a man. That when you realize that by God's grace, you get to take the pen back or pick it up in the first place and write your story with him. Your story's being written every single day, whether you think of it or not. Not someday, not when you meet someone, not when life begins, but right now. And you can either keep letting circumstances or loneliness or the wrong people write it for you, or you can let God place the pen back in your hands and start writing it with him. You get to choose the direction you're walking. You get to edit out the patterns that don't serve you anymore. You can write characters out of your story. And you can add plot lines that bring you joy and that are aligned with your purpose. That's what it means to be a leading lady or a leading man. Act as if everything depended on you, and trust as if everything depended on God. This is the spiritual posture of a leading lady and a leading man. This is the woman or man you're becoming. So if you're sitting here thinking, okay, I'm getting it. In fact, I kind of want to live this way, but I don't really know how to get there. Well, I made something for you to take the next step, helpful. I created the Leading Lady Checklist, and men, you can download this too, okay? It's about 10 decisions to help you start living the main character identity this week. Now, I know this week is busy. You have a lot going on. Seek is happening. But I encourage you to take this, use it, and let it guide you. Like literally open it today and start making these decisions to step into this character in your life. Now, also I have a booth over in Mission Way, and I have these tote bags. They're really cute. And the design on them says Leading Lady Club. I'm sorry, men, I tried to bring something for you too, and it didn't come in time. I'm so sorry. You can get one of these too, don't worry. But it's there to remind you of who you are, this identity that you can step into. And at the top, these designs are actually pens to remind you that you are writing your story with the Lord. So you can pick these up at the booth. Actually, we have some up front. So when we're done, do not move, okay? When we're done, you can come up here and grab some. And I also have a surprise. Ooh, that was fun. Some of you are awake. So I put together a little leading lady starter pack with one of the little totes, a Stanley, a notebook, and pens, and a lot of other goodies. And before y'all came in here, actually, some of you were already here. You guys got here early. But before most of you came in here, I walked around and I picked a chair. And under the chair is an envelope, so go look. See if you got it. Congratulations. You can pick it up, it's over here, so at the end you can come on over and I'll give it to you. Okay, so we're settling down a little bit. I have like one thing to share with you, okay? The best part about this mindset, this best part about living this main character identity, this way of seeing yourself, this way of taking responsibility, this way of living with intention, is that it doesn't expire when your relationship status changes. So, you know, you're meeting people at this conference and you start dating. It doesn't expire because it's the same today, the same tomorrow, and the same when you're married. You're not learning a single girl skill set today or a single guy skill set today and a relationship skill set later on. It's the same thing because the truth doesn't change. And who you're becoming matters in every season of your life. And on the days that feel heavy, when your mindset starts to slip, that wasn't proper English. When your mindset starts to slip, when the ache feels sharper than usual, because you will have those days, when you wonder if anything is ever going to change, you don't have to deny that feeling. You don't have to push it down. You don't have to pretend that you're fine. There's a very real reason that you feel that way, and now you should know what that is if you're paying attention. It's pointing to something missing. It's okay. Let yourself feel it, but don't stay there. I want you to pick up your cross and keep going. Whatever that cross is that you're carrying, the longing, the waiting, the confusion, and keep walking. Not towards the low effort person, okay? Not towards the easy distraction, not towards despair. Please, not towards despair, but rather toward hope, toward responsibility, towards holiness, towards the truth that you were made for communion. And because you were made for it, you're capable of it. And if it's God's will, He will provide the opportunity for it. I am not going to stand up here and say, God's going to drop someone in your lap, okay? I've heard it enough times, and I will cry the next time I hear it. But here's the thing. If that is God's call for you, He will provide you with the opportunity. And it's up to you to take it or not take it. Y'all hear me? Men especially? Are you men action takers in this room? Good. Ladies, what about you? Are you action takers? Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Now, literally one more thing, okay? I promise. Holiness is more important than your temporary happiness, okay? Remember that, tattoo that on your mind. Now, I want to end us with a prayer that has really shaped me for years. It's really a good posture for this main character identity, for this leading lady, for this leading man, okay? This is what it says. Take, Lord, and receive all my liberty, all my memory and all my understanding and my entire will, all I have and call my own. You have given it all to me. To you, Lord, I return it. Everything is yours. Do with it what you will. Give me only your love and your grace. That is enough for me. This is the heart of everything we talked about today. A surrendered will, this hopeful ache, and a steady purpose. This prayer, by the way, is in that checklist that you should have downloaded. And if you didn't, it's up on the screen again. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here tonight. You truly did not have to come, and I'm like blown away by how many people are here today. It has truly been an honor to pour into you. Please come visit me at my booth. I also have bags up here. I'll be here for a little bit, and I would love to meet you. I would love to hear your story, and I would love to hear about the woman or the man that God is creating you to be. Thank you guys so much.